Welcome to the Oroville City Council meeting for July 2nd, 2019, open session, where we're just convening from closed session where direction was given and no action was taken. Will you please stand for the flag salute? Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
I'll second that. You were louder.
Oh,
I'll give it to you.
okay. Gotta push a button. Gotta vote.
Motion carries.
At this time, we would like to present a proclamation to Forrest Wong, who is the winner of the Congressional Art Competition. Forrest?
And then the Art Commission wanted to join you.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. This is a proclamation in recognition and appreciation of Forrest Wong. Whereas the city of Oroville is proud to claim Forrest Wong as one of our own, she is an immensely talented young lady excelling in school, sports, and creative and performing arts. And whereas Forrest is a truly gifted artist and musician, beginning at the young age of 4, she has mastered difficult tunes on the piano and violin. She also volunteers her time teaching children to play and playing for the hospital, senior living communities, and events. And whereas Forrest has been creating art since the young age of 2 and has received many achievement awards over the years for her masterpieces, and whereas Forrest recently won first place in the Congressional Art Competition, and her art will be displayed in Washington, D.C. for the year. She also received a merit scholarship to attend the Art Institute of Chicago's summer camp this summer. Whereas, in addition to Forrest exhibiting amazing artistic talents, she is a high school senior, ranked number 2 in her class with a 4.2 GPA. She is a member of the girls' tennis team, co-founder of North Valley In Tune Music Foundation, works at Tong Fong Lo, is a freelance illustrator and violin teacher. Now, therefore, I, Chuck Reynolds, Mayor of the City of Oroville, in concurrence with the Oroville City Council and the Arts Commission, hereby recognize Forrest Wong as a talented artist and musician and urge all citizens to join me in expressing our appreciation of Forrest's talent and achievements and to wish her continued success in all her artistic endeavors. Can we have the Arts Commission come up, please, for a picture? Hi, Mr. Timlin. How are you?
This is hard.
Okay, this is a time when we have public communication, a hearing of non-agenda items. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on non-agenda items? Madam Clerk?
I have Cecilia Hirschman and then Bill Spear. I don't think it's on.
To turn it on.
Let's try, there we are. This is as much a public service announcement as anything else. I discovered it while I was cleaning up my driveway, which I love the idea that you guys are focusing on cleaning up Oroville in your own ways, and I wanted to do my part. And in doing that, I took 2 loads to our local dump and paid my fees for doing that. And then I took a bunch of boxes I had, because I'm always used to dropping them off at the dumpster, right in the dump, but before you get to the part where you throw your trash away. And it's always been free. And I learned that when they asked for their rate increase, which they got November 20th last year, they didn't mention, for whatever reason, this is Recology, but they raised the price of throwing away your cardboard from $0, which is what it's been for the 10 years I've lived here, to $13, no matter how much cardboard you have, 1 box or 20. So I think, and I spoke to the regional manager, and I explained that since that was the old system where they never paid, the fact that when they came to city council, they should have called that out. And I looked at the agenda, and it wasn't called out last year when they approved it. So I think it's just important to let people know that, because that's not the kind of thing you want to find out post facto. And that's it. Oh, and as long as I have 18 seconds, I just want to say I hope you guys can resolve your differences, because we don't want to see big bills. Thank you.
Bill Spear and then Kevin Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thought I would take the opportunity, since we're getting ready to celebrate the 4th of July, our nation's independence, and come and exercise my First Amendment right and pray over our nation. It's important that we exercise our rights. What an awesome First Amendment to be able to speak freely. Our Second Amendment, really awesome. It's under attack here in California. They just tried to do the ammo thing, which hopefully it'll go to the Supreme Court and they'll strike it down, because our Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm going to make my voice be heard about life, because life is also under attack in our country, and people need to stand up and speak up for life. The most vulnerable in our nation is the unborn. The baby's the most helpless, that we should be fighting for the most passionately. And so, Father, in the name of Jesus, I come to lift up our nation to you, our declaration of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that would be for everyone. I pray for our First Amendment right, that we would continue to have our freedoms that so many died for, that so many are still dying for, that we would be able to excel and grow in your principles and in your purposes. We pray for our president and our congressmen and our senators and all the people who serve our city council here, that we would realize that our voices do matter, that if enough people speak up, that we can change the world. And let us start out with here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Kevin Thompson's asked to be pulled, so the next speaker is the Cameron Man, and that is the last public speaker I have for this item.
Good evening, Oroville City Council. Today I'm going to talk about a little encounter I had with our local police department on the evening of June 24th. I was out and about, as usual, looking to see what's going on. Didn't look really film anything, but I noticed the police department, 4 officers were congregating in the Motel 6 parking lot. You know, didn't think much of it, just stopped, take a little bit of video, didn't think anything was going to happen until they turned on the flashlight on me, and no big deal, but they kept holding on me, so turn my lights back on them. Not the first time this happened. It's known as the flashlight war. We say 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a flashlight war. And this is very loudly. Now, this officer then got in his vehicle with spotlight on and approached me. And then he got out and said, "Oh, I thought you wanted help. Usually the flashlight means you wanted help." But even though I just yelled very loudly, 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a flashlight war, somehow that meant I needed help, but then it turned into, oh, it's actually to check to see for weapons. So which one is it? That I need help, or you're just checking to see I need weapons? And then it turned into a sort of a fishing expedition of whether or not I was out past curfew. I mean, honest opinion, anybody wonder how old I am? I mean, I've had the police called on me, and then the public records request for the call log, it turned out the person thought I was 30. So, you know, there's mixed age all around, but I explained to the officer that curfews don't apply. And pretty much when they realized they weren't going to get an ID from me, they all packed up and ran away. I wouldn't say ran away, but they kind of hurried up and got in their vehicles and left. But when I went to request the body cam footage after the fact, because one officer made it a point to record, I was told that I could speak to an officer, but then ended up being told the next day, oh, actually you have to go to the city hall and make public records requests, not here. Thank you.
That is the last public speaker on this item.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion carries.
Okay, item number 1 on the consent calendar, consider and adopt the side letter agreement between the City of Oroville and the Oroville Firefighters Association related to a 2% COLA.
Mr. Mayor, that was part of the consent. It was not pulled, it was approved.
Okay, thank you.
So we're on to on to item 5.
Yeah. Moving on to item number 5, public hearings, placement of solid waste liens on the 2019-2020 property tax roll.
Mr. Mayor, this is a public hearing that is conducted to place the liens for garbage services at various parcels throughout the city that has not been paid. It is something that is part of our franchise agreement that we do for Recology. We receive, I believe, $40 per, $20 per lien that's placed and paid for our time and our efforts to do this. This is part of our franchise agreement. These are for services that were rendered to these properties that have not been paid.
Does anyone wish to speak on this?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one public speaker. Annie Terry.
Hi, I'm Annie Terry. I'm here today representing the Oroville Rescue Mission. The Oroville Rescue Mission's address on Bird Street, our thrift store, is one of the names listed, one of the addresses listed on this. This has happened in the past before when funds are tight. Basically, we wind up paying once the lien is placed, and funds come in more in the fall of the year. So I just want to fess up to that one. Ours is one of those that's on the list. We have tried to make a payment arrangement with Recology, but their policy is unless you can pay it in full, your property address goes on the lien. So I just wanted to explain that. This is not the first year it's happened. It's happened in years past. So I'm just fessing up to it. I understand that you guys do this as a whole
however many pages, it was some huge number of pages on it. But anyway, on our property on Lincoln Boulevard, we have a payment arrangement with Recology, but because of the city lien program, they don't work with us on the bill. It just gets carried over and put on the lien. So I just wanted to explain that to everybody.
That is the last public speaker that I have a card for.
Are there any comments from the dais?
I have a question.
Wait, she's back.
Can I add, I'm sorry, I walked away probably too soon. Is there any way to not be put on it, or do you have to accept the whole, a group of them as a whole? That was our question. My
The
understanding.
list as a whole under the franchise agreement has to be put on. If it's paid off in a different manner, then I think we could remove the lien afterwards,
Okay.
but I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
Councilmember Pittman?
Yeah. Just a question to finance, and what's our typical policy on these liens? They come from Recology to us, and then we work on getting them paid. Is there a time period, or?
Recology's here, probably could answer any questions you have regarding the collection process.
Okay.
But the finance department doesn't do any collections. We just pass the lien through and put it on
I
the
just
tax
remember
roll.
we had a gentleman named Arthur, and he was very good at collecting claims before.
Good evening.
They're not
Thank you.
Melissa Percival. I'm the office manager with Recology. So the way it works is this year we're leaning for services rendered April 1st of last year through March of this year. And we start the lien process around May, June. We send notices out to the property owners. I send them around May or June, and then I send a final notice the end of June, early July, giving them another chance to pay. And if they don't, that's when we turn over the list to the finance department.
Okay.
We do accept payment arrangements on these, but if they aren't kept, we send it over because it's already from last year.
Right, understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Goodson?
My question is, Annie, is your address the Oroville Rescue Mission Thrift Store or the Oroville, is it on this? The thrift store. It's the thrift store, right. And is the address on here?
2150 Bird.
Thank you. 2130? All right. Thank you.
Well, if there are no further comments, we're looking for a motion to adopt resolution number 8796.
I would make a motion that we adopt resolution number 8796 as agendized.
Motion carries.
Moving on to regular business. Item number 6, participation in the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Cal OES Hazard Mitigation Grant Program.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. What you have before you for consideration is an opportunity to apply for a grant. We are not accepting the grant. All we are doing is submitting the grant application, making notice to Cal OES that we are in need of services due to the impact of the Camp Fire survivors building and doing improvements in our town through our planning, building department, code enforcement, things like that. So we are applying for approximately $500,000. There is a $167,000 match. This is a 3-year grant program. It will not be awarded if we are successful in this until January of probably 2020. If that was the case, we would not have anybody here with any actual employees until probably somewhere in March. Where the money would come from for the grant on this would be, or the match on this would be, this year would have to come for the last 3 months of the fiscal year, would come from fund balance. The upcoming years for this, it would be budgeted in to cover that. So you'd be looking at about $56,000 a year. In return for that, you get 5 employees in your planning, building, code enforcement, staff assistant to do all of those necessary services for that. So this, we also will cross a crossroad in January of 2020 if we are successful, where the council will have the opportunity, if through economic necessity we have to turn this down, we will have the opportunity then to say we cannot afford this, we cannot afford the match. What we're looking for today is a resolution saying that at this time we do have the money, we are willing to match this if we are accepted for this grant.
Thank you. Councilmember Hatley.
Yeah, I believe you answered my question that I had. It's coming out of the fund balance? That's where the money is?
Yes, sir. This year it would come out of fund balance. Next year we would budget, next fiscal year, if we do get this grant, we will work it into the budget. So it will be part of our normal budgeting process. It'll be in there through our general fund expenditures.
And how much is in the fund balance now?
I believe our fund balance is 6.9, Ruth? Approximately $6.9 million.
Okay, so we can barely cover it then.
I think we can
Okay.
get by.
Well, I just, normally on these, I like to have where it's coming out of, because it just saves a little time asking the
Correct.
question, but that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Pittman.
My assumption is this is paying for personnel. Does it allow you to pay for capital equipment and or tools for these folks?
No, overhead will be absorbed by the city for any of this. Most of the overhead for these positions we already have in place. We will be there. These will also, if hired, will be hired as temporary employees. It'll be very clear when they're hired that if this grant money expires and we cannot afford to keep these positions, these individuals will be laid off at the end of the grant funding period.
Thank you.
No other questions from the dais? Are there any speakers on this item?
I do not have any speaker cards on this item.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 8795, authorizing the participation in California Governor's Office of Emergency Services Hazard Mitigation Grant and the 25% matching fund in the amount of $167,139.09.
I second.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item number 7, annual assessments for the city's consolidated landscape and lighting maintenance assessment districts, zones 1 through 10, 12, 13, and 15.
Councilman Hatley, staff is recommending that you recuse yourself from this item.
We might explain, because this is going to happen to various council members.
Correct. The next 4 items, there will be various council members that we would recommend that you recuse yourself from this. The reason for the recusal is that you own properties that are within 1,000 feet of where these assessments would be. To make sure that you're not in violation of any FPPC rules, it is our recommendation that you recuse yourself, leave the room, and await to be called back. Or leave, it's up to you, you're the boss. Item number 7 is the annual assessment for the city's consolidated landscape and lighting maintenance assessments. This covers approximately 15 different subdivisions in the city of Oroville. It is for such things as paying for the lights, the landscaping, the maintenance of the landscaping, the care and watering of the median areas and the common public areas, the street trees, and everything that are within those subdivisions. Staff is recommending that you accept this. You take this preliminarily for this particular meeting. And then from there, what we'll go is at the next meeting, there will be a public hearing where you will have an opportunity to weigh in on this, take any comments that are there. Right now, what we're looking for is just direction from the council and the preliminary approval of the annual assessment report. There is going to be increases in these assessments this year, just to be really clear with everyone. What's happened in the past with these assessments is they have not been kept up with. The assessments have been extremely low, and staff has failed for a decade to increase these as prices for these things increased, and the general fund has been absorbing these costs. So what that means is that the general fund dollars that come in as general tax dollars for the entire city are being used in specific areas that are really specific and really only for the people that live there. So what this is this is essentially putting the cost of this, levying the care and the maintenance of these common areas to the individuals that live within these subdivisions.
We do this every year.
Which was part of their original agreement when they bought it. It's not news. It was agreed to as part of the purchase.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I just want to make a brief comment on what Mr. Legron has said, and that is that this council, and this is an annual issue that's addressed, but there are going to be some additional bumps that are bigger than what folks have seen in the past. And so I just want to, we need to make that really clear that, we're not, this is because of things that have happened in the past. And again, it's just more of this picking up and addressing things that have been allowed to kind of slip.
Right. This is
And I think
not,
that people need to be really clear on that.
this is not something that, you can put at the feet of the council. This is something where staff should have been incrementally stepping this up over many years, and it just, for whatever reason, it just did not happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Pittman.
It's always difficult to figure out which one's where and whatnot. The one question I have is on Spencer Avenue, the island next to the bus stop there, is that the city's or is that BK's?
The city currently maintains that.
Okay. Well, we need to put it on the list.
It is one that we are, as time goes by, what you'll see with this stuff, and this is going to be the most difficult year I think this council is going to have as far as looking at things that are happening around town. Everyone has an expectation with the Measure U monies that things should happen tomorrow. It's going to take probably a year for us to really realize what those revenues are, what those costs are, and to get the people in place to do that. So, this year is going to, and I understand everybody's frustration and impatience. I want it too. But the year after that, I think, is when you're really going to see more work being done. You'll see work this year, just not at the level in which all of us would hope.
I appreciate that. It's just when you look at the zones and the identifiers and whatnot, and people don't visually see the map, then you don't know if that's part of this or that. So, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Are there any speakers?
Mr. Mayor, there are no speakers on this item.
Can I say a few words regarding this? When we did the budget for these, we did add a whole position for a Parks Tech 2 position for this, and we also budgeted a new truck and equipment, which will probably allow this assessment to go back down a little bit next year, but we do want to have a capital replacement plan, and maybe an eighth, or the truck will last 8 years. So it did get bumped up quite a bit this year, but it's not expected to be as bad next year. And also assessments 1 through 7 are in the hole. So we'll probably be bringing this back to you in January next year, because there were 7 parcels that didn't have a CPI inflator built in. So they're at their maximum assessment and they are not covering their costs. So that'll need to come back to council in about January so that we could assess a CPI inflator on those first 7 assessments.
Thank you. No speakers? Looking for a motion to adopt resolution number 8790.
I would make the motion to adopt resolution 8790 as agendized, the resolution of City Council initiating proceedings and a long list of zones 1 through 15.
I second.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item number 8, annual assessments for the city's consolidated landscape and lighting maintenance assessment districts, zones 11, 16, and 17.
If we could, Councilman Hatley will join us back, but this one's we're going to have to do a little bit differently. What we're going to do is at one point we're going to have to, staff recommends that Councilman Pittman and Smith recuse themselves from a couple items and that Mayor Reynolds recuses himself from another. So we're going to have to conduct 2 votes on this in order to maintain our quorum. So if Councilman Smith, Reynolds, and Hatley would so choose, they could recuse themselves and offer to have Mayor Reynolds,
Right.
Councilman Pittman, and Smith recuse themselves, and Councilman Hatley rejoin us.
We need Reynolds.
Oh, we need another one for a quorum.
Mr. Mayor, we need you to stay.
Well, hang on a second.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Attorney, Mr. Cole, or Yeah, counselor. What we have is the recusal of the council members. If we have council members that do not vote on the item, can they stay for the presentation of the item and then recuse themselves from the vote, or do they have to leave the room for the entire process?
My suggestions would be to have a generic summary up front that's associated with the generalities, the process, and other things. And then if there's a discussion of the specifics, then we would maybe have them separate. So is that something we could do?
So maybe what we should do is we should just break the item in half and do half with this group, then rehear the same item again with the other folks.
That would be a good way to proceed.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we have enough folks now. Mr. Mayor, this is another assessment district, maintenance assessment district. This is for zones 11, 16, and 11 and 16. It's for the Mission Olive Ranch and Acacia. This also is a assessment to take care of the lighting maintenance assessment and the consolidated landscape assessments for these subdivisions. It is to maintain and care for common areas, street trees, and lighting in the area. This is an annual assessment that's done. We do this every year. This is the same or similar item to the one that we just heard. It's a different area of town. Ruth, would you like to add anything to that? So what we're looking for is just direction to bring this back or have this preliminarily approved tonight, and we will bring it back in a public hearing at the next meeting for final approval of this. There is an increase in these assessments, as I covered in the previous item. The reason for the increase is because that we have not kept up with the cost of doing these. We have let them stay flat and stagnant for many years. So these have been being subsidized and funded through the general fund. And what we're doing is we're transferring this back to the property owners that own these. Were aware of these when they purchased the properties, and this will cover the cost of those. These increases that we're talking about in these fees will cover a Parks 2 maintenance worker and the equipment, so that this is fully covered by the cost of the individuals that are utilizing the service.
Are there any comments?
We're on
from the-
item
We're on
number
item
8A.
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any blue speaker cards on this item.
Are there any comments from the dais?
I'll make a motion. I move that we adopt resolution number 8791. This is a resolution of the City Council initiating proceedings. Was there something that Mr. Lando
I
wanted
think
to
so,
say?
because you're talking about 11 and 16, right? Not
I'm
17.
talking about 11 and 16
So it'd
only.
be as amended, this resolution would be as amended to address only 11 and 16, and there'd be a subsequent motion for 17. So you can still make your motion, I just want to make sure that you know it's as amended.
I move that we adopt resolution number 8791 as amended. It is a resolution of the City Council initiating proceedings preliminarily approving the annual assessment report and declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments for the Oroville Consolidated Landscape and Lighting Maintenance Assessment District for fiscal year 2019 through 2020. Also authorizing any additional necessary budget adjustments to the annual assessment report. Second? Second.
Can I ask a quick question before?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. On a budget adjustment, doesn't that take 5 votes? Or only 4?
Budget adjustment is a 4/5 vote, but it's of the city budget.
That's a good question. Is it 4/5 or a 5/7 anytime that there is an adjustment in the budget?
If I could follow up with a
In regards
question.
to our charter.
If I could follow up with a question, do we need a budget adjustment?
We do not
since
need a
just
budget
adopted
adjustment on this item. I was able to complete this before the final budget, so there will be no budget adjustment for this.
Oh, okay.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that you recuse yourself from this and ask Councilman Smith and Pittman to return.
So, do you need me?
Yes, you're fine on this one.
Is this number 9?
No,
This is number 8. We're
That
going
we
number
just did
8B now. We
What-
did A a moment ago. We're doing B now.
B, which would be 17. So we just completed 11 and
What I've done, just for clarity, so everyone knows, what I've done is item number 8 has 3 zones.
Got it.
2 of the councilmen cannot vote on 2 of the zones, the mayor cannot vote on the other zone. So I've split it into A and B so that for the clarity for staff as the resolutions come out and for the public, so you understand we are splitting this so we don't have a violation.
Okay. I just, for clarity, we didn't have that
Right,
spelled
there-
out up here, so that's why I was a little confused for a
Correct.
moment. Yeah, so
And
thank
it
you.
is confusing. It's,
Yeah,
you know, when we don't have a quorum, it's very difficult.
okay.
What you have before you, number 8 is the same as essentially the first item that you heard. This is just hearing the second one in this Mayor Reynolds has been recused because he owns property within the area within 1,000 feet of zone number 17. This again is a lighting and landscape district's maintenance agreement. It is the preliminary approval of the annual assessment report and declaring the intention to levy and collect assessments. It's for landscape maintenance, lighting maintenance, street trees maintenance, and to cover the cost of that. Will be an increase in this year. It will cover the cost of the worker and the equipment necessary to do the work. So what we're looking for today is just preliminary approval to move this forward to a public hearing at the next meeting of Zone 17 of the Feather River Bluffs District.
So moved.
Again, clarifying for the record, the resolution's amended simply to include 17.
And is there a second? I'll second it if there wasn't.
Councilman Goodson, do you have a question?
It was so quick, I just did not hear what Councilman Pittman said. And I think that we all need, just for the record, and for those that are live streamed, could you please voice that a little louder?
What did I say? I made a motion on their previous agenda item. I didn't make a motion on this one. This is,
Okay.
As I understand, the motion was made by Councilman Hatley, so
Right.
moved,
Yeah.
and then seconded.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it was you.
yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
thank you. See, I didn't hear it.
Motion carries.
Okay, on item number 9, we recommend that Councilman Pittman recuses himself, and Councilman Hatley, I believe the attorney, I've consulted with him regarding the one zone, and that we've made a determination based upon the map that it appears that you are fine to vote on this, even though previously you have recused yourself because I know you are very conservative, and you like to, in abundance of caution, you like to stay away from that. But we have looked at the map that we have. You are more than well over 1,000 feet away, and there is no possibility of any financial increase or remuneration for you by this assessment. And Mr. Attorney, do you concur with that?
The FPPC regulation says that if something's more than 1,000 feet, there is a presumption that it doesn't have a material effect on your property. That can be rebutted only with clear and convincing evidence that there is such an impact. And so, unless, and obviously, it's ultimately your call, Councilmember Hadley, but if there are no facts that you're aware of that suggest there's some potential to affect the value, and that evidence is clear and convincing, you're fine.
Well, just because it's out in that area, and I know it's well over, and it has nothing to do with my property at all whatsoever, because it's well over 1,000 feet. However, I always like to err on the side of caution, just so nobody can come back and say, well, so, I mean, if you need my vote for this and you need me to stay, and I'm telling you, I get no financial anything from this, or it doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. As long as I'm going to be okay and not have somebody come back and say,
You are
Can
okay
I,
on this.
can I help you out on that one, Art? When in doubt, there is no doubt.
You are okay on this one.
There is no doubt in terms of the financial impact. You're absolutely, there is no financial conflict with this one, I guarantee it.
Right, that I know, because it never has been, but
Right.
Yeah, we know that, I know you have been very, in an abundance of cautiousness to protect the city. You have always stepped away from this. Today, because of the lack of a quorum without you, we do need your vote on this. You are outside of the area, though, where it would have any impact on you whatsoever.
okay, and if the question is raised by anyone that says that I have done something wrong, our attorney is going to say, no, he didn't, and I just want to make sure that I am covered.
Well, I do want to clarify, and ultimately you are responsible to make the call whether you have a conflict of interest or not. Nothing that I say or anyone else says is a defense, but I can read the regulation to you. It says that if property is located more than 1,000 feet from the site of the action that's being taken, there is a presumption that it doesn't affect your financial interest, and that presumption can only be rebutted with clear and convincing evidence of a significant effect. And so, I think you've articulated, you don't think there's even an effect, let alone a significant one. And then the question is, would there even be clear and convincing evidence of that significant effect? And what I'm hearing from you is you don't think there's even anything remotely close to that.
Well,
Councilman Hatley, if we can do this, why don't we break this item into two? We'll do an A and a B. B will be specifically the one area that is close to your home. We'll bring the other two council members back. We'll ask you to leave at that point. That way you don't have to, there's no possibility of this coming back on you or troubling you.
right, because I don't want to, the next thing I know, I don't want to be standing up, having to hire an attorney to try to defend what I did here today, and I don't want to do that when I've always abstained when it came to that property. So I'm more comfortable doing that, even though it's going to, I always caution on the side, or on the side of error, just so that I'm safe. That's what I try to do. So with that being said, how do we
We'll
do
just split this, just like we did the previous one. We'll do it as item number 9A and item number 9B.
Okay.
So Chief, also I believe I have property that's in this zone as well. But I don't know if it's the 1 through 4 or 6 through 8. Do you have that, Jackie?
You are, according to what I've been given here, you're good to go to vote on all of this.
Oh, okay.
But give me one moment. Let me go confer with, I'd rather
Because when I
be
first
safe
checked,
than
I
sorry.
was in
If
this
everybody
influence.
excuse me just for
Sure.
1 minute, just walk back.
Right, well,
Don't put that off on anybody else. So, I would like to sing a song. Does anybody have a song? Oh. A joke.
See your properties here. I don't see any zones around.
one up there.
But 16 is not part of this item.
Right.
We're only doing 1
And
through 8.
You were gone for that one. Okay.
And you were out for that one.
for,
8 is over here.
1 through 4, 6 through 8, sorry.
1, 3, 5, 8.
Where's 7? There's 7.
7's right here. 2 is over here.
You're good to go.
Yeah, I'm good.
Then we have
Okay.
6 over here.
I looked at this before, but right.
So, just because my husband owns the property, but I'm married to him, am I exempt?
Well, if you're not on the,
There you go. That's why, because I should have recused. Okay. Saved by the husband.
You're right, I don't have anything in there.
Sing a song. Tell us something.
tell us something, yeah.
Tell us how chamber is going. Can we do a committee report now?
Yeah, this reminds me of the issue of the Chad. Was it a hanging Chad? Or was it not?
Or the glass, was it half full or half empty?
You know what they say about details. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Jackie is indicating that perhaps on Zone
Oh.
8, Acacia Estates,
Yes,
you might have a conflict, Eric.
there you go.
Without having the
Where-
map.
The map.
Eric does not.
Okay. Here's zone 7, here's zone 8.
Maps are, the numbers on the zones match up with the last set of items that you did. The numbers themselves don't match up with items 9 and 10. You have to look at the name down in the queue. So look at where your zone is and then look at the name to see if it matches. I didn't make the map.
Could we take a break, please?
Sorry.
I like to request a 10-minute to figure this out. I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody. This is turning into a nightmare.
Well, we would have had to have 2 maps was the problem. And Jesse. How's your day? How's your day?
What's going on?
Should I go back there to explain it?
Yes, you should.
We're going to figure this out.
Okay.
And so I can
The map needs to match.
I'm not in any of those zones, so I lucked out.
I just, but I was, you know, just trying to pick up.
what we're saying is,
Because it's. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
because tonight,
Well,
Oh, gosh, I know.
yeah, I don't,
hello,
what
Chief.
do we have? One more item and I can't vote on it either, so.
You can, yeah, but you can leave early. Do you want me to do your committee report?
I don't have any. I don't know. I don't know what they, yeah, I know. They won't even mention that. They won't mention they raised the, is that what you're gonna put salary? Yeah, because I raised the price per deal is $2, but that, yeah. If I had to guess, I'd say they doubled it. They went to 600. Because they could go up to 600. I'm pretty sure of that. Because they were 3, I think. So I'm pretty sure that's what they did. If I had to guess.
Told him I don't know, don't want to know.
You know what it is.
Yeah, so I
hear that too.
They would love to.
oh, yeah. I thought his wife would, you know, I figured she would.
Think that she would say.
I don't know. And you know what's sad about it is that you know, his health is so bad that, you know, I mean, he can't make good decisions for himself. I don't know, you know, and it's up to his board to do it, to point, you know. I think so. I think he is. Yeah, yeah, I think he is. Yeah, but, I mean, that's just sad, you know, I mean, but how old is he now? Oh, he's in his 80s, but. I think his dad lived to like 101 or something, or yeah, I think his dad lived to like 101 or something, and TC wanted to beat that, you know. And I said,
Unless his dad, did his dad live with
no.
Well, you don't want to be there.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Good as that.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I would
just,
at least, if I make it
yeah, yeah, I mean,
But if you're not even,
yeah, if you don't even know who you are, it's like, why am I here, you know? And it's sad where you know, there was a song that was out, and I'm trying to think who did it. Anyway, it talked about Alzheimer's and his dad, and he wanted to go sing. Well, he still knew who he was. You know, he was talking about his dad. And he went, they had in the video of the song, you know, and showed with his dad and that, you know, but it's sad because they get to the point where they don't know anybody. I mean, it's kind of like,
they don't know how to.
And you're at Oroville High,
yeah, and they don't know the people around them, so, I mean, it's sad. That's a sad, I never want to be like that.
I don't either,
I taught
pulling the plug.
from,
because
let's see, 90 to 93.
Yeah,
Would you,
oh yeah,
have it in your will?
yeah, I have a do not resuscitate, yeah,
Oh, well, that's different,
yeah,
but not to be religious.
yeah, yeah, no, no, I don't want to be on a machine because really and truly, I mean, that's not living,
That's no.
yeah.
My kids did it.
That could keep you alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, holy smokes, you know, and with all these medicine stuff, and I was just looking at a thing on the news this morning, before I went out to desk, and
Well, let's see.
How about the shortest poem in the history of the world? It's called Ants. Adam had 'em. It's a poem, right? Adam had 'em. See, Sherry, you opened the door. Ah. Boy.
Okay, I got one here. This guy was sailing by himself. He's sailing around the world. He encountered a storm and he got shipwrecked, stranded on this deserted island. And he was there for 20 years. And finally, after 20 years, a boat showed up and rescued him. And over the course of them 20 years, he had built 3 buildings. And they asked him when they rescued him, "Hey, you've been busy. What are these 3 buildings that you built?" He said, "Well, that one there's my house. That's where I live. And that one there's my church. That's where I go to church." "Oh, great. Well, what's that other building?" "That's the church I used to go to."
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. Really neat. Where was he talking about putting that big salmon? Here on the wall? I never heard. The one that's in his office? Yeah, over here now. Yeah. Talk about putting it somewhere here. Might as well, at least it won't get stolen. We could put it right above us on that little thing there. Opens the door to a lot of conversation.
Mr. LeGrone?
Mr. Mayor, after reviewing this item and looking at the numbering system that was placed onto the map, it is a flawed map. Therefore, we'd like to rescind the action on number, sorry, I gotta go back.
7 through 10?
6 through,
No, 6 is fine.
oh, 6, I'm sorry.
7 and 8, A and B. And we would like to continue this item until tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Okay, great.
We actually, I think, would need a motion to
That's,
rescind.
So can we do that, though we were recused on part of this with the rescension?
Since there's no financial impact at all rescinding on their property.
I think the council, because you're gonna take the actions over, and you're
Simply vacating the previous action.
Negating.
Okay,
So I think you
fair
can
enough.
do that.
okay, so do you want a motion on 7 and part of 8 separately, or?
No, you can do 7, 8, A and B together. Just
Okay.
simply say you're rescinding, vacating the action.
Looking for a motion to rescind and vacate the actions on items number 7 and 8, A and B.
I move that we rescind agenda items 7, 8, A, and B.
I'll second that. Turn that on.
So, oh, sorry.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, we also respectfully request to continue items number 9 and 10 until tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Thank you. We don't need a motion for that. Okay. I want to continue items number 9 and 10 as well. Okay, moving on to reports, discussions, correspondence, council announcements. Councilmember Goodson.
I wasn't in attendance at the last city council meeting. My husband and I took a vacation, which we haven't done in several years. Came back and attended a planning commission meeting last week. There was only one agenda item, and that it appears it is going to continue until July 10th. Yesterday, I took advantage of walking on the Oroville Dam. It was a wonderful evening for it. That is all that I have.
Councilmember Smith.
Vice Mayor Thompson asked me to let everyone know that because he was on vacation and he wasn't able to be here tonight because of a mishap, and he physically was not able to get back to Northern California. So, but given that he'll probably be able to be here tomorrow on our continuation. And then just one other piece of sentiment, since we're coming up on the 4th of July. The last couple of sentences of the Declaration of Independence. And for this support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And I just want to say that those founding fathers of our nation sacrificed all that we might enjoy a celebration. And we, as Americans, have enjoyed just an amazing opportunity to live our lives and to express ourselves. And it's always a privilege and an honor and a special time to celebrate the 4th of July. And I just think about many of those of us here in our town on the 4th who are going to be gathering with the Forebay or at Nelson Park. And I just want everyone to have a safe, amazingly enjoyable time with kids and family, that as a community we come together and we honor this great tradition that we have in America. And it's just a deep privilege to serve you as City Council, for me personally, and I just want to express that. Thank you.
Councilmember Pittman.
Yeah, just kind of teeing off of what Councilman Smith just said, I also sit in a Rotary Club, and the success of fundraising for the fireworks was largely due to the individual contributions of the people in this community. We had never done a Facebook process before, and we got now toward the end, and we didn't really have a lot of contributions, and Facebook saved the day with all the donations that came through, and it's really encouraging to see people donating $10, $20, $50, $100. It was huge, and it made almost about 40% of the contributions. So something new, something good, and I think it's the community needs to be very proud about that. And we're looking forward to, I know we've been involved in the coordination of that. A lot of agencies, a lot of work is going forth for this, and it really turns out to be a great family event. You know, if you want to tailgate out at the ballpark or go to the state park and grab a kayak or canoe or whatever the case may be, it's looks to be a great 4th of July, and we hope everyone takes a nice, safe, and sane attitude to it. So enjoy the holiday coming up.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have something that I'd like to share.
Councilmember Goodson.
The 4th of July means it's a day of independence to all Americans, but it has a significant and a unique celebration for African Americans. After the end of the Civil War in 1865, the nation's 4 million newly emancipated citizens transformed Independence Day into a celebration of Black freedom. The 4th became an almost exclusively African American holiday in the states of the former Confederacy. Historical insight.
Future agenda items. Did you have something, Councilman? Okay. Administration reports, please.
Just to let you know that I will be in Sacramento tomorrow. Assemblyman Gallagher has asked me to appear and testify on Assembly Bill 430, so that's where I'll be tomorrow.
I have nothing at this time.
Curious, Tom, is that the near last hearing required for that legislation, or is it?
It now is at the Senate, I don't know if it's called Natural Resources Committee. It's been through one Senate committee. This committee has a number of concerns, as you might expect, based on its name and who participates, and they're discussing substantial changes which would actually potentially gut the bill, and we'll just see what they do.
Well, you can add, and there is a support letter from the Housing Authority of Butte County, but we just had a tour of all the facilities, and it is a huge need to have some help with housing.
Well, it's very interesting if you look at the staff report, and it's really staff that has expressed some concerns, which I think are addressable. I don't think there's anything that can't be addressed, but there are literally about 100 support letters, and the only opposition came from Chico, which has been taken out of the bill.
Mr. Attorney, anything to report? Leo?
What we're finding is quite a bit of volume is going on through the building department. We had almost 100 building permits go through in June, which is good volume. Many of those houses or additions, that sort of thing. So that's exciting. Additionally, we're having quite a bit of interest in the some of the older subdivisions that we're trying to reestablish. A couple of them were, Ruddy Creek was one that was on the consent agenda tonight, the Wilbur area out there as well, but also additionally the Vista del Oro, Linkside Place 2. So that's nice that we're starting to pick away at that, and because those were established and had some sort of entitlement prior, it makes for a quicker process through. So additionally, I spoke with one of the consultants who had worked a lot of the biology on quite a few of those, and many of them have already been mitigated, so they're starting to run short on some of the time on some of those mitigations, so hopefully some of those will get through, and we can utilize the existing mitigations that were done and save quite a bit of money there for the applicant as well, so.
Chief?
Yeah, earlier in the year, several Oroville Fire Department staff members attended a swiftwater rescue training. And on June 7th, there was a rescue conducted in the Feather River where a 17-year-old male was rescued that had been stranded and stuck out there. And those fire staff members attributed the training that they received and the equipment that the council authorized the purchase of to assist them in doing that and actually conducting a live rescue. There's the Oroville Police Department in South Oroville meet and greet that's going to occur Saturday, July 13th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Martin Luther King Park in South Oroville. And there's 2 new police officers on the street that are conducting their training now. They recently graduated the police academy. They're in their field training program. We look forward to swearing them in at National Night Out, which is August 6th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Municipal Auditorium.
Thank you. I'd like to say something this week. We've been seeing quite a while now, a lot of people showing up with pictures of blighted properties, one particularly on an Oral Bangor. Well, we cleaned it up this last week. We didn't see one person there to lend a hand or take a picture and say, hey, thank you, or this looks nice. Not one, but there was plenty of pictures when it was a mess. Something else I'd like to say, as fast as we could haul that debris off from there, that night they would come in with truckloads and dump more. So it took a full week to clean that up. So that, and who knows where, it might have been people from some other town. We don't know that, but the fact is that's what we're up against. But nobody's looking for credit, but let's show a little balance when people put out an effort and take care of this stuff. It's not all one way. Thank you. And with that, we're going to adjourn till tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
We were busy too.